man is the one that suffers. The rich man doesn't have to worry about it. The man with children, a family, he's the one that suffers on this high prices of food.
And you're tired of preparing the same inexpensive meals, day after day after day.
And it seems as if every week that you go to the store, the articles have, are from 5 to 10 cents higher.
The cupcakes and everything, they went up to about 19 cents and stuff. Price is going up on candy, 15, 20 cents on candy.
I find that I have to buy less meats because of the high cost.
With today's constant rise in food costs, industrial representatives, home economists, and government spokesmen alike have advised the consumer that he learn to buy and prepare his food more inexpensively. Yet, these experts have not made any realistic attempt to provide the consumer with the necessary information for curbing the high cost of living. Tonight, Say Brother will take a look at the high cost of food and some of the reasons for these skyrocketing prices. We'll talk with individuals and families about how they have been affected by the inflationary cost of food, and we'll also try to provide information that will save money by showing you, the consumer, how to prepare large quantities of food at a relatively low cost.
Yeah, it's that pure funk, baby. Have no fear, the Mechadon is here. CL Smooth, bound to make your body move on the reminisce tip. Check this, I reminisce for a spell, as shall I say, think back 22 years ago to keep it on track. The birth of a child on the 8th of October, a toast, but my granddaddy came sober. Count all the fingers and the toes, now I suppose you hope the little black boy grows. 18 years younger than my mama, but I really got beatings cause the girl loved drama. In single parenthood, there I stood. By the time she was 21, had another one. This one's a girl, let's name her Pam. Same father as the first, but you don't give a damn. Irresponsible, plain not thinking. Papa said chill, but the brother keep winking. Still he won't down you, would tear out your hide. On your side while the baby make a slide. But mama got wise to the game. The youngest of 5 kids, hun, here it is. After 10 years without no spouse, mama's getting married in the house. Listen, positive over negative, for the woman a master. For the queens rise in the chapter. Deja vu, tell you what I'm gonna do when they reminisce over you, my God. One fact, when I date back, I recall a man off the family tree. My right hand, Papa Doc, I see. Took me from a boy to a man, so I always had a father when my biological didn't bother. Taking care of this, so who am I to pick her? Not a bad ticker, but I'm clocking Pop's liver. But you can never say that his life is through. 5 kids at 21, believe he got a right to. Here we go, while I check the scene with the Portuguese lover at the age of 14. The same age, front page, no fuss, but I bet you all you know they live longer than us. Never been seen now, that's where you're wrong. We give the man a taste and he's going, gone. Nodding off sleep to a jazz tune. I can hear his head banging on the wall in the next room. I get the pillow, hope I don't wake him. For this man to cuss, hear it all in verbatim. Telling me how to raise my boy unless he's taking over. I said, Pop, maybe when you're older. We laughed all night about the hookers at the party. My old man standing yelling, good God Almighty. Use your condom, take sips of the brew. When they reminisce over you, check it out. So you never forget this, the days are way back. So many bear witness the fitness. Take the first letter out of each word in this joint. Listen close as I prove my point. T to the R-O-Y. How did you and I meet in front of Big Lou's fighting in the street? But only you saw what took many time to see. I dedicate this to you for believing in me. Rain or shine, yes, in any weather. My grandma Pam holds the family together. My Uncle Doc's the greatest, better yet the latest. If we're talking about a car, Uncle Sterling got the latest. Strive to be live cause I got no choice. And run my own business like my Aunt Joyce. Pete Rock hit me, enough respect due. When they reminisce over you, 5,000.
Listen, just listen to the funky song as I ride
Still smooth for 92. There we are.
How much are those eggs? Are they the same price you were paying for 6 months ago?
No, they weren't. Then we get the jumbo eggs, but the price has gone up so until I've come down to the large eggs now.
How many people do you have to feed
Well,
on this?
just my husband and myself.
How much were you paying for them 6
I was
months
paying,
ago?
I'd say, like 78 That's for the large eggs.
Do you buy milk?
Yes, I do.
Is it more expensive than when you bought it, let's say 6 months ago?
Oh, yes.
About what is the variance in prices?
I paid 67 cents 6 months ago.
Do you buy less milk or more milk?
No, I buy less milk because I use powdered milk half and half now.
What is your major source of income?
Well, my husband's on a disability pension.
What kind of meals do you eat?
Mostly, I might as well say meat. My husband, I like casseroles myself, but my husband does not like casseroles, so consequently I spend quite a bit on meat.
Has the rising cost in food made a difference in the type of meat that you might buy?
Oh yes, definitely I buy the less expensive cuts of meat. I find they're very nutritional. There's much more economical to buy the whole chicken than parts of the chicken there. Now, one time I'd buy the chicken wings. I find out to buy chicken like this is much more economical to buy the whole chicken. And then I have the makings of chicken soup also with the rest left for broiling.
Do you, what else do you do? Do you fry chicken as much as you used to?
No, I broil most of our food there.
Tell me, have you made any changes in the types of meats? You were saying that you get the lower cut, but
Yes, I buy like the chuck roast or the chuck steaks, which is a little bit less expensive than some of the other cuts of meat. Now, I generally buy 2 of the chuck steaks, and I also buy 2 more, and I brown these up ground beef.
oh,
See?
so you don't buy hamburger?
And no, I don't buy hamburger. I ground these up because the hamburger, the ground beef, costs $1.40, $1.39, $1.49. See, I pay $1.19 for the chuck, and I round that up.
Does
I
it
have
go
a-
as far as it did?
Oh
6
yes, it will go as far if I make it myself.
Do you manage on your limited income? I mean, are you?
Yes, because I've learned to cut corners here.
What are some of the corners you cut, for instance, in meat, beside the chuck steak?
Well, buying turkey wings.
What do you do with turkey
And,
wings?
well, I wrap them in tin foil, put onion mix soup, and then close it up there, and then we have a meal for the 2 of us here. 1 turkey leg, which will last us for 2 meals, things like that. I've learned to cut corners drastically.
Do you find fish very
Oh,
expensive?
fish is very, very expensive there. In fact, I don't think I've bought fish in the last, except to make fish cakes, in the last 2 or 3 years here, because my husband goes fishing in the summertime, so I'm used to the fresh fish, and I could never eat any fish, frozen fish or anything like that at the stores here.
Mrs. Jones, do you find it better to shop on an empty stomach or a full stomach?
No, on a full stomach there, because I find out that I don't pick up a lot of things that I don't need if I have a full stomach there. And another vegetable I like very much is eggplant there. Now, of course, some people fry it, but I fix it like Creole with tomatoes, saute an onion, tomatoes there, and put grated cheese over it and put it in the oven for about 15 or 20 minutes there, and you have a real delicious meal there.
Mrs. Jones, do you cook a lot of greens?
Yeah, it used to be 3 bunches for 39. Now they're 39 cents a bunch there. So I don't have them as much as often as I did at one time. Yeah. Well, there's some things that I have cut down on or cut back on. There's some things that I will not cut back on. I still afford myself the luxury of eating those things.
What do you think about the high cost of food?
I think it's ridiculous.
Entirely too high.
I think it's ridiculous.
I have 9 children, 1 grandbaby, and it's very hard for me to feed them.
What I think about is horrible. I had to spend about $85 a week.
It's terrible.
I think it's pretty awful.
I think food is too high. It's really very expensive. You can hardly eat.
You hardly can shop anymore with the money that you get to live on. Yeah.
What do you think are some of the reasons for the high cost of food?
It's supposed to be a shortage in everything. The cost of food is, it's determined by the government, I think.
You know, they don't have enough wheat and they don't have enough this and that. You know, I think they got it. I don't know.
I think the high cost of food as well reflects the way that it's grown, the way that it's distributed, the way that it's sold. I think a lot of the high cost of food has to do with the packaging.
Have you made any changes in the types of food that you prepare now?
I very seldom buy meat when I go shopping unless it's on sale.
We find ourselves eating a lot of hot dogs.
I eat more hamburger than usual.
You eat a lot of chicken.
Have you had to change your eating habits?
I cut down on the meat and give more eggs.
Well, more vegetables and stuff like that. I can't afford too much of meat now.
Well, I see that I can't get vegetables like I should. I can't have fruit. I can't have juice like I should have. Yeah. Like substitute that carnation skim milk, mix it half and half to make it go further because milk is gone sky high.
Meatloaf, you have to substitute different items to make it stretch, especially when you have a family as large as mine.
Do you think the government can do anything about the high cost of food?
Get that damn Nixon out of office.
The government put a ceiling on wages, but he didn't put a ceiling on prices for food, clothing, and other items.
Get something like food stamps to help out the low-income families.
Nixon seems to me to be a dictator, you know.
What do you think the government should do about the high cost in foods?
I think he should bring it down to the poor people. We middle-aged poor people just can't live with the high cost of living. Older people, the young, we just can't make it.
Start using food stamps. It would help some people because you can get about double the amount of food.
If the food prices are going to be that high, they ought to raise our wages so we can at least come up to the standard of buying food.
Well, I sincerely hope they go down, because if they don't, we won't be able to eat it all. Good day.
Why did you decide to use the food co-op as an alternative?
Because the food are more cheaper and you get more for your money here at the food co-op.
Because it's cheaper.
The convenience and the lower prices.
What are some of the products that you save on here at the food co-op?
Eggs, Tide, and canned goods and detergent.
I buy chickens here. The chicken's a very good item to get. Chickens and eggs, those are our best items. I get both those and soap powder and fruit juices, you know.
This food co-op is located 719 Sharman Avenue, and we try to help service in the Lower Roxbury area.
Basically, it's just, you know, to get decent food to the people, good food, good quality, especially to the senior citizens who have that problem of fixed income.
We do a lot in terms of comparative shopping to find out what the prices are in our area, and we try to compete with those prices or undercut them. What happens is that people fill out forms in the early part of the week and give us some ideas of what they would like. And when we go out to some of the distributors, we try to get those things that they like and stock our shelves and have them on hand, and they pick them up towards the end of the week. We get our foods from the distributor. A lot of times we can catch an item on sale, which keeps the prices really low. Another thing is that because we use the community at large, volunteerism, etc., then our prices remain very low. And this alternative to shopping is seen by many citizens, area citizens, and that can sort of start an action plan for them to look at various prices, know more about consumer education, and also possibly deal with that problem.
The more people we have buy from the food co-op, the cheaper the prices will be. If we could get more business, even more than we have now, that would be better for the people.
What you got cooking there, sister?
This is Dorowat.
Dorowat. I want to introduce Salim Hardy, who is here with us today cooking for us. Salim is a resident of the South End and from Ethiopia, and she's got some Dorowat. What's Dorowat?
Dorowat is literally translated chicken stew or chicken sauce.
Chicken stew. How you make chicken stew?
Well, you start out with some finely chopped onions, about a cup of it. And you saute that. It means you put it between low and medium heat.
Okay.
And you cook it until it's about golden brown.
Okay.
And then you put some butter.
Okay.
And you cook it for a little while longer.
Okay, that's the onions and the butter.
And the butter.
Okay, I got you.
And then you put some tomato paste.
Uh-huh.
And you put about a spoonful of hot pepper.
Hot pepper?
Yes. Hot chili pepper.
Hot chili pepper?
Yes.
So that's hotter than most pepper?
Yes, it is. But it is spiced and especially made in Ethiopia for our dishes.
Now, do people in Ethiopia eat a lot of spicy food?
Yes, a lot of spicy food. Almost all our foods are very spicy and hot.
Okay. So this dish is hot?
Yes, it is hot.
Okay.
It is mild now because I have used some tomato paste in it.
Okay. So is there anything else that special that you put in here?
Well, aside from, at this moment now, it doesn't have but the ingredients I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You cook this for a little while to mellow the chili powder.
Okay.
And to, sort of get the taste into the onions. And just,
What makes it smell so good?
I think it's the butter and the chili powder.
I'll tell you, it looks good. I wish those people out there could smell this food.
It's going to taste very good. It will taste very good. Well, you cook this for a while.
Okay.
And after it usually is about 10 minutes to 15 minutes.
Okay.
And
it looks sort of like a paste almost, rather than a sauce. Okay.
It is a paste, but it will become a sauce as soon as you put the chicken into it.
Oh, the chicken's going to make it turn into a sauce?
Yeah, and you put some water into it.
Okay, I see. Okay, so you got to add some water.
Yeah, you got to add some water.
To sort of thin it out. Now, do you do that before or after you put the chicken in?
It depends on your taste again.
Okay.
I usually put it before I put the chicken in.
Okay.
Okay, because see, the chicken only takes a few minutes to cook. Chickens at home are much tougher, so we put the chicken before we put the water in.
Okay, now the chicken is going to actually cook in there. You don't pre-cook the chicken.
Oh, no.
Okay,
you cook the chicken in here.
I just want to get it together in case I decide to cook this for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it's almost ready now to take the chicken.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll put some water into it.
All right.
And just enough to cover the chicken.
Okay.
Okay, and it's still at medium heat.
Can you cook this this particular dish in large quantities?
Yes, it depends on how much water and how much chili powder and how much tomato paste you use. And you use a lot of onions at times, so you can stretch the dish.
Okay.
To accommodate a lot of people.
Okay. So in fact, this dish might not be too expensive for, say, a large family if they wanted to do something just a little special.
No.
Okay.
At home, a lot of the poor people who, cook chicken for usually festive occasions because they can't afford chicken, they use some powder that is from peas or beans.
Really?
Yeah. And they put it in here so it will stretch.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it will be powdered peas or powdered beans.
Okay.
So it will be much thicker, than this, and they'll put a lot of water so that takes
Mhm.
care of a lot of people.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm going to put the chicken in now.
Okay.
It's ready to take the
Okay.
chicken. And you can use any kind of chicken, any piece, any
Okay.
piece.
Okay.
A lot of times wings are very cheap.
Okay.
So you can use a lot of wings
Okay.
in this. And just the sauce is what makes the chicken. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now the chicken is in here, and you just cover it.
Okay.
Okay.
You cover it with the sauce.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You cover it with the sauce,
Okay.
and cook it for about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I've only had Ethiopian food one other time, you know, and it was really smoking. I mean, hot, you know, really hot.
Yeah. Well, when I cook in America,
Mhm.
usually I put a lot of
Mhm.
tomato paste in it, so it's not too hot for American taste.
Mhm. What you got in here?
We have some chili here.
Smells good.
Yes, it is
Smells
good.
good.
It is good. And what I do is very simple,
Mhm.
and it feeds a lot of people.
Mhm. How you put this together?
Well, I brown about a pound of ground beef,
Mhm.
and I drain off the fat.
Mhm.
And then I put some chopped onions
Uh-huh.
and some chopped green pepper,
Uh-huh.
and I put a can of tomatoes,
Mhm.
a can of beans. Sometimes I use 2 cans of beans so it will stretch.
Mhm.
And then I put some peppers,
Mhm.
2 different kinds of peppers.
Mhm.
They're both Mexican chili peppers.
So is there a difference between Mexican chili peppers and
Ethiopian chili pepper? Yes, there is definitely. You just use about a tablespoon of this and about 2 tablespoons of this.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you use some spices.
I see.
Usually I use some cumin seeds.
Okay. Okay.
I use some bay leaves
Okay.
and some seasoned pepper
Okay.
and some salt.
Okay. I see you lean toward the spicy foods.
Yes.
That's because of your Ethiopian background, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I usually, cook the chili for about 2-3 hours. The longer it cooks, the better it tastes,
Yeah, chili's got the reputation of being able to feed a lot of people.
Yes, it does.
Right.
You can stretch it, to as far as you want it. The more beans you put, the more you can get out of it.
Is it? Does it take very long time to cook the chili?
No, it depends on your taste. Some people can cook it in half an hour. And some people can cook it for as long as 2-3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. Just simmer it.
Okay. Is there any special Ethiopian touch that you put on this chili here?
Well, some people don't put garlic into it.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I put garlic
Okay.
into it.
Okay.
And it tastes good. It brings out some flavor. Sometimes I also use fresh tomatoes.
What's happening with the Dora Wat over there? Is that just moving right along?
Yeah, it's cooking. It's cooking. It's going to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come back, we'll put the final touch on it.
Okay. So how long does that usually cook?
About
You
half
got
an
it-
hour.
About a half an hour?
About half an hour.
About a half an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
About half
All right. Well, I intend to get into some of this food. What time we going to eat here?
Shortly.
Good.
We'll eat shortly.
All right. Here tonight to discuss the nutritional value of food and the status of current food prices is Mrs. Mary Crumlin, nutritionist and a founder of the Nutrition Workshop at Harvard University. She is a graduate of Tuskegee Institute in Alabama and did her internship at Peter Brent Brigham Hospital here in Boston. Mrs. Crumlin recently received her master's degree from Newton College of the Sacred Heart in Education and Administration. Our guest economist is Alan Schultz, a graduate of Harvard University and formerly an assistant professor in political economics in the Afro-American Studies Department at Brandeis University. How y'all doing?
Fine.
Welcome to Say Brother.
Thank you.
Let me direct my first question to you, Mr. Schultz, and that is, given the state of the present economy and the rising food costs, I mean, how are black people going to how they're going to survive?
The same way we survived for a long time, that's by cutting back.
Mhm.
Cutting back. You cut things out of your diet that are really unnecessary. First, you start by cutting out the snacks, potato chips, and all them puffy little things that really aren't good for you anyway. And then you, when it really hurts is when you have to start cutting back the necessary things, the high protein. Well, if you take a look at the price of peanut butter, which is really a high protein food, see, peanut butter prices have been jumping 30–50% in the past couple of years. Now, when you tell people that they have to cut this out, or if the prices keep going, it's going to hurt a lot of little kids, number one, and a lot of people who just use that to supplement the diet that they find reasonably adequate already. See.
Is there any food, Mrs. Crumlin, out here now that is relatively inexpensive but still very nutritious?
Well, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about the kinds of meats that we have. They always think that the less expensive or the linear cuts of meat are not as nutritious as the choice cuts. But that's a misgiven because the choice cuts of meats are mostly mobilized, which has a lot of fat, and it tends to make the meats juicier. But the meats that are less expensive, more grainy, and does not have a high fat content, are just as nutritious, but less expensive.
What kind of recommendations would you make to people who have large families, say, who usually don't have large incomes, which is in fact the majority of black people? What kind of recommendations would you make to them about the kind of food that they should be shopping for today?
Well, there are several ways of doing that. We have what we call complete proteins, and we have what we call incomplete protein foods. The average American diet, or the average diet for all peoples, should be composed of what we as nutritionists call the basic four foods. And if you include the necessary foods from those particular four food groups.
Yeah, what are those four?
Like we have the meat group, we have the bread and cereal group, we have the milk group, and we have the fruits and vegetables.
Okay, I did.
Those are the four groups. There are also national minimum daily requirements that's set up by the boards, telling us how much is essential. And like most people think of foods as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, but we also have minerals and vitamins that are included in these things too. Like, in the olden days, way back in times, when I was a girl, we used to have a combination of incomplete proteins like legumes, beans, and a combination of rice, which is a grain, cereal, whichever way. And put these two things together, and you can come up with a pretty good low-costing meal. And if you include some things like eggs, cheeses, these are some of the things they can use. Children for many years have been using peanut butter as a source of protein for lunch. It's a good source of protein, and it's fine for certain people that have large families, for people that, unless they're on a special diet. The only restriction that I would find with peanut butter would be people that have hypertension, that is restricted for low sodium diets, or people that have cholesterol problems.
Let me see, what would be, for example, a good breakfast in the black community for a young child?
In the black community.
I'd like to break it down like that because some folks may not know when we start to talk about the different groups exactly what we mean.
Well, for a child, did you say?
Sure, yeah. Okay. Let's focus in on children for a second.
Because, see, when you get into daily requirements, they vary from children to adolescents and to young mothers, sedimentary people, or geriatrics. The requirements are a little bit different.
Okay, what are the different people? You got me confused. I don't understand what those words mean.
Well,
just give it to me real quick.
Real quick. It's like the average child, a toddler, say 2.5-year-old. Okay. Then we get into children the ages 5, 6, and 8, so forth. Then we get into teenagers, like from 12 to 18, etc. and then we get into what we call young adult women and men, you know, above 25.
Okay.
And then we get into middle-aged people. Then we get into what we call older people, and then we get into what we call senior citizens.
Okay, I got you.
You got me?
Focus in on, say, preschoolers and first graders or something like that. Tell me what they need for breakfast.
Preschoolers and first grade. I would think a small glass of citrus fruit juice. Most children wouldn't like grapefruit juice, so I would say an orange juice. You know, this would give them their natural vitamin C that's required for per day, which we can't store, so you need it every day. So a small glass of orange juice would be fine. I go along with hot cereals for children when they're getting off to school, whether it's winter or summer. Number one, they're less expensive. The prepared cereals and packages are more expensive, and I think they get more out of it if they have a hot cereal. Now, if we give a protein source, it does not have to always be an egg, like everybody says. But an egg is a good source of protein. It's one of our most complete protein foods. Small glass of milk, slice of toast. If they're really young, the slice of toast could be eliminated.
Okay. Is there any explanation in your mind, Mr. Schultz, about the, you know, why is it that the cost of food is just going out there somewhere?
Well, prices rise for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's because costs rise. In this case, you know, it's not really too clear. I've read an article recently that attributes the rising prices to the deflation of the dollar. It turns out, according to this author, that whenever a country has engaged upon a major devaluation of its currency, that inflation almost always follows. I'm not too sure that you can attribute a lot of credibility to this, but it certainly bears investigation. I mean, it explains a lot better than most other theories. The other reason that, well, there are several reasons, like I said, why prices might rise. But what's happening now is that prices are rising and output is staying relatively constant. It hasn't changed much since 68, 69, something like that. This is a new kind of phenomenon. It's never really happened to the United States. And that's why it's a problem. They've hung a new label on it called stagflation, where you have physical stagnation in your output, and price inflation, on the other hand, which is giving you all the growth in your gross national product, but very little real growth. Why this happens, nobody knows. It's never really happened before, but there are a lot of reasons to explain it. Another thing that you might have heard of is the Phillips curve, or the relation between the rate of change in prices and the rate of change in unemployment. Economists have long believed that whenever prices are rising rapidly, unemployment is falling just about as rapidly.
But that's not true in this case, is it?
Not anymore. It seems like we have rising unemployment and rising prices, which violates, again, this relationship, which is not a very stable one to begin with, but it has existed. It's been discovered by a very able economist.
See, I remember when chicken, for example, used to be very inexpensive, or fish used to be very inexpensive, and now, I mean, fish is still moderately inexpensive, but it's almost priced itself out of the food market, you know, and those were two foods that black people have practically existed on for a long time. It's called chicken the gospel bird, you know, as if it was sent here for us, you know. I mean, at what point, you know, are those rising costs going to stop? I mean, it's got to come to a head at some point, you know.
Well, see, what a lot of us tend to forget is that when we pay out $1 in expenses to buy a commodity, that we're really paying somebody else's salary. What we spend is what somebody else earns. So even if prices are rising, you know, incomes are rising as well. The real problem is whose incomes are rising and whose incomes are relatively static. And then you get into the problem of having to determine the incidence of this inflation. Inflation has always characteristically hurt people with limited earning power. Minority groups, people with fixed incomes, the elderly, they happen to be a minority and a growing minority. So trying to assess the impact of this inflation or the incidence of this inflation is really what we're saying when we say that inflation is bad. Nobody would agree with you if you said that rising incomes is bad, would they?
No.
Rising prices and selling more commodities is the only way that you're going to raise incomes, you see.
You see, but in this situation, I mean, it seems to be the little man that's continually affected. I mean, somebody is in fact making money, but I know a lot of little people, you know, whose incomes are not rising at the same level of or the same rate as the prices are increasing in our society. You know, and it just seems like there's some point at which something's got to give. I don't know what that point is or where that is. I wonder if either of you have any notion about a solution to that particular problem. Because, you know, a nutritionist can focus in on, well, let's try to make ends meet. And, you know, you can prescribe for us what people should eat given we don't have a lot of money and how we can still get a nutritional food, you know, on a small income. But as an economist, what do you see as a solution to that particular problem? You got any notions? I sure would be interested.
Well, I think that we've tried just about everything in the book, but there are a few things that we really haven't tried. I thought it was kind of a desperate situation when we slapped on price controls and wage controls. As it turned out, that didn't stop inflation. What it did was create shortages all over the map, not just the food sector, but in just about every other sector that you could imagine. When they put a lid on prices, you found the gas pumps running dry. You found people having to pay a little bit more for gasoline under the counter because they couldn't get gas for the real or the set price, you see. Now, if you want to know where it's going to stop, heaven only knows. I've read a couple of forecasts that say deflation is just around the corner. And
deflation being the opposite of inflation?
The opposite of inflation.
Okay.
Means falling prices. Now, falling prices, just like rising prices, mean falling incomes for somebody. Question is, whose incomes are going to fall, and who's going to be hit hardest by this?
So there's always somebody getting the short end of the stick.
Well,
is that a fair?
If you want to interpret it that way,
Okay.
you can, but it's really a lot more complicated than that.
Okay.
It's not a question of getting the short end of the stick. It's more or less where you happen to have your hand on this stick.
Yeah, well, I think that's critical. As far as I can tell, it's usually we unfortunately have to go. But as far as I can tell, it's usually the little man getting the really short end of the stick. I would say we're little men, you know, and
that's a good correlation. There.
Listen. Thank you both for coming. I hope you know our conversation is useful to our audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right on.
In feeding a family of 6, I try to make my my menus out before I come to the store, but it's quite hard because once you get there, the prices have changed so much that you really can't follow everything you have on your list. It runs about $40, $45 a week if I'm careful. But if I have to buy quite a bit of meat or something, it can run as high as $50 or $60. And I think the biggest thing in my budget is meat. So I've reverted to casseroles and homemade soups and things like that. There are 4 children in the family, 3 which are teenagers, and you know how much teenagers like to eat. So in trying to make dishes that will stretch to sort of give them protein and nourishment and yet fill them up, I make tuna fish casseroles, beef pot pie casseroles made with not actually beef but hamburger, a meatloaf. Instead of putting just plain old bread in the meatloaf, have a package of stuffing and put that in and bake macaroni and cheese, things that will really stretch for the children and stretch the budget. My oldest daughter makes most of our desserts. She makes all the cookies from scratch. We don't buy cookies anymore. I find in the store the brand names are higher priced than the regular store labels, and the value and taste is just about the same. I don't buy my milk from the supermarket. I buy it from a milk company in a large 5-gallon container, which usually lasts me the whole week and runs around $4. For the past 3 summers, we have planted a garden in the backyard. What we have done is planted corn, string beans, green peas, and tomatoes. So I have gotten a book on freezing them and have purchased a freezer. Up until December, we had all our own fresh garden vegetables. As far as my bread is concerned, I don't buy bread in the supermarket. I buy my bread from a day-old bread store and take it home and buy it by 10 or 12 loaves at a time, and I freeze it and take it out as I need it. For a water softener, I don't buy the regular brand. I buy vinegar, which you find softens very well and is much cheaper. Because of the rising cost of food, we eat quite differently. I don't have a lot of roast beefs unless I can get them on sale. We eat a lot of chicken and a lot of fish and casseroles. And it has affected us quite a bit. I give my children vitamin C, which I buy at the nature food store, and also vitamin E with a wheat germ in it, which gives them energy. And then the regular, just 1-a-day brand vitamin. The children have seemed to be healthy, which if you can get enough protein and nutrition in what you give them, they'll make out all right. They get used to not having steaks and stuff.
How's our Dorawat doing?
It's doing well. It's doing
Okay.
fine. I just have to put some more spices.
Okay.
I have to put some crushed ginger root
Okay.
and some crushed garlic.
Okay.
Just a little bit, about 1/4 teaspoon of each,
Okay.
or 1 clove garlic and about this much piece.
Okay.
Of,
Can you buy
ginger
ginger root in the?
Certainly.
Oh, okay. So you can buy it in supermarkets and
yes,
stuff.
You can get it. It may be seasonal now. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
But you can get it.
Okay.
You can get it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's go to what goes with this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Does that have to cook a little bit longer?
Yes, it has
Okay.
to cook about
Okay.
20 minutes to half an hour.
Under a low flame, high
Yeah,
flame, or?
medium.
Okay.
About medium.
Okay.
Okay, well, this is rice. That is plain rice that's
Mhm.
cooked, according to the directions in the box. Usually here, since we don't get the bread that we use at home, I use it with rice.
What kind of
I
bread
eat
do
it
you
with
get in
rice.
Ethiopia?
It's sort of like Syrian bread.
Ah,
You
that's
know?
flat.
Flat, very flat. In fact, it's much flatter than Syrian bread. Okay. But we can't make it here. It's very difficult to get the grain
Okay.
to make it.
Do you eat with the bread? I mean,
Yeah,
how do you
we
eat?
use our
in-
fingers
Okay.
and dip the
Okay.
bread into the sauce
Okay.
and eat it that
Okay.
way. Okay. But here we use forks and knives to eat it with rice, plain rice.
I got you.
If you have some other kind of bread that you want to use with the sauce, I use the rice variation
Mhm.
that I have, which is, beans
Mhm.
and carrots.
Mhm.
Very
Mhm.
simple. You just mix it
Mhm.
with the rice and cook it
Mhm.
for a while. Use some
Mhm.
seasoning salt.
Okay, so if you mix the peas and carrots with the rice, you have a whole other dish then.
Yeah, you have
Then
another
you season
dish.
that?
You season it
I
with some pepper,
I do.
and so on.
I do.
So you have another dish
Mhm.
that you can stretch.
Okay.
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 And then we have another dish here. Another beautiful dish.
Okay.
This is macaroni and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that is unusual about it is that I used different kinds of cheese. Okay. I
Okay.
used 4 different kinds of cheese.
Okay. Okay.
I used sharp cheddar,
Mm-hmm.
cubed. I used mild cheddar,
Mhm.
medium mild cheddar,
Mhm.
cubed. I used wine cheddar,
Mm-hmm.
and regular American cheese.
Okay, so was this very expensive to prepare?
Yeah, you can just use one kind of cheese.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay.
And then, to make it tastier, you put 2 eggs or 1 egg, just
Mhm.
slightly beaten,
Okay.
and mix it with the macaroni.
Do you have to pre-cook the macaroni?
Yes, just as the directions on the box are.
Okay, so you pre-cook that, then you cut up the cheese and put it in it.
You cube the cheese,
Okay, I
usually
see.
about half a cup of each different kind of
Mhm.
cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also grate the cheese,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Or you melt the cheese,
Mhm.
whichever is convenient for you.
Smells good.
And cook it for about
Right,
bake it for
right,
about half an hour.
Right, right.
Okay.
It's very colorful.
Yes, it is.
Very colorful.
It is.
Very
It's very tasty too.
Okay, you just slip that in the oven and you bake it for
Bake
about half
it
an hour.
about 300 degrees
Oh, okay.
for half an hour.
Okay. Okay.
It will be fine.
Okay. What else you got for me?
We have some salad.
Okay.
We have some spinach salad, fresh
Mhm.
spinach salad.
Mm-hmm.
And I use some sliced tomatoes, clean the spinach, use some fresh mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks good.
Oh, it's very colorful.
tastes good.
It's very colorful.
Tastes good.
Looks like Kwanzaa. Got all that red and green in there, you know?
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It's very pretty. It reminds you of the garden
Mm-hmm.
outside,
Mm-hmm.
even though we don't have too many gardens in Boston.
Now, this is spinach, right?
This is fresh spinach.
Oh, I see.
Fresh spinach.
Okay.
You can buy it at the markets,
Okay.
fresh, packed.
Okay.
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 And there are a lot of things you can do with mushrooms. A lot of people are not aware of that. You can slice mushrooms and saute them in butter,
Mm-hmm.
season them.
Mhm.
They're delicious.
Mhm.
You can use them in omelets.
Mm-hmm.
You can cook them
I
in
got you.
rice.
I got you.
You can do a lot of different.
What kind of
kinds things.
dressing do you use on your salads?
Any dressing you prefer
Mhm.
for your taste. I usually use Italian. It does taste better with Italian dressing, or just simple vinegar and oil,
Mm-hmm.
and put a little bit of lemon juice.
You can just buy the dressing right in the
Yeah,
store.
you can buy the dressing in the store.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very simple.
What else you got?
For people who don't like fresh spinach,
All right.
okay, I've got some spinach to cook,
Okay.
and I use some onions chopped,
Okay.
just a little bit,
All right.
make it tasty, some butter, and some seasoning salt.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes at home we put some boiled potatoes.
So you give it just a little more flavor and
Yeah, you
zest
flavor
than,
it, yes.
okay. I
Yeah, and you cook it for a very short time
Right.
in low heat for
Right.
about 5-10 minutes, because very well cooked spinach doesn't taste
And
very
spinach isn't too expensive.
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
at all.
Okay.
It's quite
All right.
moderate.
All right.
Less expensive than most
Okay.
things.
The Dorawat smells delicious. What's happening with that?
It's cooking. It's cooking fast.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Well, it is a simple dish. You can just cook a lot of different other things while you're cooking this.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't tie you down to it all the time. It doesn't need constant attention.
I see you turning the flame down. What's
Yes,
that
I
mean?
did.
What's that
It
mean?
means that it's almost ready.
It
means that it's almost ready.
Well, they say one way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Well, that could be a fallacy sometimes, but you know how it is.
Well, I don't know. I'd be willing to test it.
The
What you gonna
last
do
thing
now?
I'm going
What
to
you gonna
put
do?
is boiled.
Those are whole
eggs.
boiled eggs?
Yes, hard-boiled eggs.
Okay.
See,
Now,
this can make more food.
Ah.
Okay.
Ah.
Hard-boiled eggs. Well, sometimes some people like to pierce their eggs,
Okay.
so it can soak up.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all there is to the chicken.
And you
The
just let it
chicken-
cook on.
That's right.
Okay.
You don't really cook it after this.
Okay.
In fact, you turn it off.
Okay. Then you just let it simmer.
You just let
And
it
that's
simmer.
that's Dorawat.
That is Dorawat.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. Right on. Looks good to me.
You can taste it.
It's very frustrating when I get my paycheck and my husband gets his, and we put them together, and it's not really that much. Well, it's not going to get the things that it should be able to get. We still have to plan very carefully, And it must be very hard for those who there's only one person working, because it is frustrating to see that your check is not going to go very far at all. I do have a freezer, and I'd like to go down to market and get fresh vegetables and freeze them, and that saves some money. I even freeze bread, for one thing, anything that I can get on sale, or fresh vegetables and a lot of meats. And there are not too many things that you cannot freeze. I find that I have to plan my meals more carefully now, and I'm making a lot more casseroles to feed my husband and my 2 children, to try to stretch the little food, the food that we can get, because it's just, the cost has gone up so much that it makes it almost impossible to eat the same way that we used to, so I make more casseroles. I try to prepare a lot of beans and rice dishes, 4 side dishes that will, kind of fill in so that I won't have to make 2 or 3 different kinds of vegetables. Sometimes I mix them together and make, one main side dish to go with the meat that we have. We do eat quite a bit of cheese. As a matter of fact, most of the casseroles that I invent have some kind of cheese in them, When I prepare a meal, especially when it's a supper, I try to make it as well balanced as I can. And sometimes this runs into problems because I might not have the right kinds of foods that's nutritional, that actually goes with the meal that I'm serving. I don't buy as many name brands now. I look more for price than I do for the name on it. And I buy a lot of, I cut out a lot of different brands, kinds of meat, cuts of meat. I can't buy like veal and different things. And some things I have to cut out altogether. And I have to find some kind of substitute for them. We don't eat meats every night. We have meats maybe 3 times a week. And then the other 2, I try to make some kind of a casserole that's maybe just vegetables. Sometimes they don't turn out so good, and sometimes they're delicious. And I do a lot of experimenting when I cook now. And it's easy to plan when I have a meat, because I can just plan around that meat, but like I said, for the most part, I have to try to invent some kind of casserole or, some kind of different side dish or something that's not quite as expensive as before. I think the reason why the food cost has risen so much is actually a variety of reasons, from the president on down to industry itself. Everybody's trying to get a little piece of the action, and corporations and everything want to make so much profit that they're not really concerned about the people. And foreign policies like our wheat deal, there should be something done about that, because for us to send wheat out of the country, meanwhile the bread and everything else in here is going up, it's just unbelievable. Okay. There's not too much we can do about the cost of living. I think that everybody's will change their way of their eating habits. And I don't know how people with larger families get along, but I know that there's such a marked difference in my food budget that it's impossible to eat the way we did before. It's just everything has to change.
Elia Pryor from Roxbury is here tonight to talk to us about health food.
Yeah, in the sort.
Okay, in the sort. What you mean in the sort?
Well, I add a little soul to this health food.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Okay, we're going to start off with some brown rice.
Okay.
Brown rice is naturally more nutritious because it's not refined and all the nutrients are still in it.
Okay.
And we have lentils, which is a legume or a pod type of seed plant.
Okay.
And we have bulgur wheat, which is regular, ordinary wheat, but like it's cracked. It's cracked wheat.
What's cracked wheat?
It's regular wheat that they just...
Oh, I do.
That's just cracked.
Okay.
And I'll start off with putting the brown rice, filled with its nutrients, into water. Just like you cook ordinary brown rice, you can follow the directions on the box.
You cook the brown rice any different than regular rice?
It takes longer to cook brown rice.
Okay.
It definitely takes longer. But it's worth it. It's worth the wait.
Okay. How come it takes longer?
Because it's not refined, for one.
I got you. Okay.
And I'll add the lentils to that.
Okay.
Okay, and we have enough water to cover it.
Okay.
You may have to add a little bit.
Okay.
This is a very nutritional. It's high in B vitamins. It's the legumes. It's very high in proteins also. You know, it's not high, but like it's goodly amount of proteins.
Are they very expensive things to buy?
Lentils, not really. It's no more expensive than the average, meal. I'm adding bulgur wheat to it now.
Okay.
Okay. And mix these all together. To add a little more protein to it, I add some tamari sauce. Tamari sauce is made from soybeans, which, as we all know, is very high in protein.
Okay.
And we just turn on the light and let it cook.
Okay. Is there a name for that dish?
This is just plain brown rice and lentils with bulgur wheat.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll add some.
That's your tamari sauce.
Tamari sauce, very high in protein.
Okay.
And it also has you can use it as a substitute for salt.
Okay. Is that is tamari sauce from the Orient?
I believe it is. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure, but I believe it is.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's better than salt because we really don't need that much salt in our diet.
Does tamari sauce give it a little more flavor?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does. Plus, you also add the other any other thing that you like to use in order to bring up the flavor.
Okay.
Okay, now I have some vegetables here. Now these are carrots and onions and red cabbage and green cabbage and zucchini squash. And I just steam them very lightly, because you don't want to overcook vegetables because in doing so, you cook all the nutrients out and you wind up with all the nutrients and everything in the pot liquor. So you have to eat the pot liquor in order to get the nutrients. So this way, it all is in the food.
Can you get red cabbage and zucchini in the supermarket?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And vegetables are naturally a lot cheaper than the meats.
Are you a vegetarian?
Basically. Okay. Now I have here some mushroom sauce, which will go over the rice and lentils. Again, it's nutritious.
Okay.
It adds flavor and things like that. I'm going to cut up some more mushrooms here and add that to the already cooking.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is, it really helps. Like, you find that we don't use enough fresh vegetables and things with our foods.
You probably get a lot more mileage out of the fresh vegetables,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And you just let this, what I have in here is, I start out with onions, and you just sort of like brown them with a little bit of oil. And you slice your onions in this manner, just so that they're sliced.
Okay.
Like so.
Okay.
And then you place them in and let them cook.
Okay.
Until not browned. You don't want to fry them. It's I try and tend to stay away from as many fried foods as possible. But and then you just let it simmer slowly. There's also whole wheat. Again, it's unprocessed flour. It's much more nutritious.
So you put flour in there.
Right.
That's how you got your gravy.
Right. That's how I got the gravy. Again, tamari sauce is added.
Okay.
And
okay.
You just let that simmer.
All right.
Like so.
So what's happening here?
We have a cheese sauce here. Okay.
Okay.
Now in here again, we started out with some butter or margarine, and I added some cheese to that, which I'm going to add some more. This gives it a nice tart flavor.
Okay.
This is just sharp cheddar cheese.
Okay. You're just sort of grating that into.
Right.
What's in the pan now?
Well, we have in here already butter, milk, flour, a little bit of water, pepper, salt. I also have some cream cheese, which I had in there earlier. And you let that cook. You just let it simmer. It starts off very thin, and it gets thick as it goes on.
Does that sauce go over something?
Yes, it does. This goes over the vegetables.
Oh, so you've actually prepared a whole meal here.
Right,
Ah.
right. See, because like we tend to think of vegetables as a side dish. You know, it's so, you know, just add one or two little green peas or something like that. This way you have a whole meal. The whole meal's right here.
So now you take your
mushroom sauce, and that goes over your rice and lentils.
Let's see how they're doing. Oh, so they're getting ready to cook.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're coming along.
Okay.
And you can cook all this at one time because lentils are small. You know.
Okay.
And you have your vegetables and your cheese sauce to go over it.
So then you just take the cheese sauce and put over the vegetables.
Over the vegetables and the mushroom sauce over the rice and lentils, and there's a whole meal.
Now, do you have like any desserts or anything that, I mean, you may not have brought any with you,
No.
but what kind of desserts do you usually
Oh
have?
yeah, fresh fruits are the best desserts to have because they're nutritious again. And you also have little sweets that you can make. They all come in various books. You'll find that all the health food books also have recipes for sweets and things too.
Are there health food books that on the book stands that people could read?
Yes, there are many, many. And I advise people to go down Newberry Street. There's enough stores down there which could, you know, enlighten folk to a nutritional way.
Yeah, I've encouraged more black folks to think very seriously about health foods because they are a bit more economical, you know, and they are certainly more nutritious.
Correct.
You know?
And they don't have to taste bad.
Yeah, they don't have to taste bad. And I think they're better than a lot of that pre-cooked or pre-packaged food that's been going down.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm definitely ready to eat your meal. You know? It looks
you
good.
can
It looks
taste
like
the sauce. Everything else is coming along.
Let me taste it. It looks like home cooking here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's definitely good.
Got all of your mustache, but
Okay.
you had a little cheese sauce and stuff on it. But
thank you.